Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be talking about my top 15 books of 2021. The only rule that I had, so you'll notice a common theme in this collection of 15 books. There are one or two authors that really come up trumps and you're probably going to be able to guess who they are if you've been watching my channel for a while. There was one author in particular, Joe Abercrombie. I read his most recent trilogy, Age of Madness, at the end of December, and I loved all three books. All three books were really highly rated, but I ended up deciding to just take the one that I loved the most and putting that in this selection of books because otherwise half of the list would have been Abercrombie, and I just think that's a little bit ridiculous, and I wanted to give some airtime to some other authors. That being said, I mean, he's still very heavily featured, but you know, just bear that in mind. The other thing is that I will be going based off of the ratings that I gave on Goodreads. So I went through my top 15 rated books on Goodreads, well, top 17, and then I discounted 2 of the Age of Madness books because of the reasons that I gave before. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So at 4.5 stars, we have Prosper's Demon by KJ Parker in 15th place. This is a very weird novella by KJ Parker. I strongly recommend that if you are new to KJ Parker, you do not start here. Start with Purple and Black. It's a very acquired taste. The humor is very dark. Parker's humor is very dark anyway, but this is like very, very dark, and it's just very weird, and I feel like most people are not going to like it. Even fans of KJ Parker, I think, will probably not like it as much as his other stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I have filmed a review, I just haven't put it up yet. I need to edit it and it's going to probably take me a while to get there. But I do have a review and I will put it up soon. But it was really enjoyable. I like the themes that it tackles. Parker is a favourite author and there's a reason why. In 14th place, we have A Shadow in Summer by Daniel Abraham at 4.5 stars. This is the first book in the Long Price Quartet. I was spurred on by mainly Angela and Alan and Katrina to read this. They all love this series. It was my first time reading Daniel Abraham and I really enjoyed it. It's a really solid fantasy book. Lots of character work, lots of intrigue. I just love the way that he brings all of the different puzzle pieces together. I do have a review on this, so I will link it down below and you can check that out for my full thoughts. In 13th place, we have Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie. This is the short story collection that he wrote after the original trilogy and the standalones, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really solid. I think Abercrombie does short stories really well, and it was a fun time. I really liked seeing some familiar characters, and it felt like I was coming home after I'd finished that original trilogy. In 12th place, we have A Betrayal in Winter by Daniel Abraham. This is the second book in the Long Price Quartet. I ended up giving this a 4.75 stars. I have a feeling I will give this a 5 stars once I finish the quartet. But again, excellent character work. Fantastic characters. Idan is like, I still think about her, and Ota is a fantastic character. I just have a feeling that Autumn War, which is the third one, is going to be absolutely crazy. And I think things are really going to kick off, which I'm really looking forward to. That was terrible. Next, we have Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. This is the third standalone. This one gets a lot of hate. I can understand why. It's written as a Western. I do have a review of it, so I will link it down below, but it was just so good. I mean, I love Westerns, so I love the Western vibe. I love one character specifically in that book, and if you've read it, you will know who I'm talking about. And I just thought it was a wonderful ending to certain arcs. I still think about Red Country quite a lot, actually, especially the one character that I mentioned, and it's just really good, and I think it's really underappreciated. Then next, we're going into 5 stars now. So all of these are 5 stars, but not all 5 stars are equal, so they are ranked. The first 5 star that we have is Wrath by John Gwynne. It's interesting. Faithful and the Fallen was a series that I really enjoyed at the time that I was reading it. The more I think about it, the more I realised that it was actually quite a forgettable series for me. I really enjoyed the arcs of some of the characters. I really enjoyed the intrigue. I really enjoyed the kind of here comes the cavalry. I thought that was done really well. It's not normally a trope that I like, but I actually really liked it in that quartet. But it's not a quartet that I've thought about much. The characters I don't really think about much. I read it and then I moved on to my next thing and then I kind of forgot about it. But Wrath was great. The way that Gwyn writes battle scenes is incredible. I think he's one of the best ones out there. And I really like the way that certain threads were wrapped up. And I would recommend it a lot to people who are beginners in fantasy. The next book we have is a novella, and that is The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this 5 stars because I read this book in a couple of hours and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's what Brandon Sanderson does really well but in like 120 pages. It's funny, last year I read a lot of Brando Sando. This year I didn't read much. I mean, this was the only book of his that I read in 2021, and I really enjoyed it. And I think my one gripe with Brando Sando is that his books are unnecessarily long sometimes, and things just take a really long-winded path to the resolution, and that isn't necessary all the time. But that's why I loved Empress Soul, because Empress Soul is a novella, so everything happens a lot quicker, the plot progresses a lot quicker, the characters develop a lot quicker. And I really hope he does more novellas, because like standalone novellas that aren't connected to other series in the Cosmere, because it was really solid. I kind of want to reread it again now that I think about it. In 8th place, we have The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This book is absolutely phenomenal. It is the second book in the David Bad trilogy. Honestly, a perfect book. The way that the story started and the way that it resolved or laid the foundations for the next book, the characters, the world building, just everything worked. I was hooked when I read this book. I was so sad that I hadn't read the second book slower, because I wanted to experience it for longer, and it was just fantastic. I really can't wait to read more of her books. The other two books that bookended it were great, but Kingdom of Copper, without a doubt, takes the #1 spot out of that trilogy, and it was just fantastic. In 7th place, we have The Hammer by KJ Parker. And I have a review of this coming out soon. I don't think it will be up by the time this video goes up, but I do have a review coming out soon. The Hammer to me is grimdark. It's so dark, it's so unforgiving. It really makes you question your own boundaries. The review will be out soon, so watch this space for that. But it was a fantastic book. If you want to get into KJ Parker, definitely not one that I would recommend you start with. Build up your tolerance for KJ Parker. Start with some of his shorter, more palatable novellas, which, you know, I've mentioned before. I will be doing a reading order suggestion for KJ Parker, because I know quite a lot of people have picked up interest in him, which is great. But it was fantastic, and I was definitely depressed after I read it. In 6th place, we have The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. I have a review of this, I will link it down below. Fantastic Western, really solid, read it in the space of a day. Tackles things like family, relationships, knowing your place. To be fair, that's also the same as The Hammer. You can see a common theme of the types of books that I like. I really like the fact that there's lots of different characters that you come across throughout the duration of the story. And it's just really well done. And as a result, Patrick DeWitt is one of my new favourite authors for sure. In 5th place, so we're getting down to the final 5, we have Purple and Black by KJ Parker. I have a review of this. I think I have a review of all of these books, or I will have reviews coming out of all of these books if I don't have a review of it out. But Purple and Black is the best entryway into KJ Parker. Epistolary format, following 2 main characters and then a bunch of other side characters towards the end. The humour is fantastic. The characterizations are fantastic. Plot is not really there, but you understand what the point of it is, and it's just wonderful. Best surprise for me this year. I like going into that novella, I really didn't know what to expect, but it is an absolutely fantastic novella. It has changed my mind on novellas. I've normally hated novellas, but this one, really loved it. KJ Parker he smashed it. So I'm gonna say, smashed it. In 4th place, we have The Winter Road by Adrian Selby. This book I read in February, I think it was. Adrian Selby has also become a new favourite author of mine as a result of this book. I will be reading his other 2 standalones at some point this year, because I wanted to read Brother Red last year, but things happened and I just didn't get to it. Wonderful story, wonderful plot, very dark, characters are fantastic. Main protagonist, one of my favourite protagonists of last year, and The Winter Road is a sure hit. The writing is just phenomenal as well. Top 3, so I don't really know what to say apart from brace yourselves. In 3rd place, we have The Folding Knife by KJ Parker. This book, I have a review of this book, and I feel like I didn't do enough justice for the character of Basso in that book. Basso is one of the best characters that I read last year, and I still think about this guy. Still think about him. Alan and I still talk about him, and I feel like Basso is me. The more I think about it, the more I think that Basso and I are just like one and the same person. There are certain things obviously that I don't agree with and that I would never do that Basso does, but as a individual and the way that he thinks about things, I think about things in a very similar way. I guess the main difference is that he doesn't really think about other people's feelings, whereas I do, and that's kind of where we split. But otherwise, just the way that he thinks about business and some of the ways that he thinks about relationships, I definitely sympathize with. Folding Knife was the biggest surprise for me because it was the first KJ Parker book that I read and I was completely blown away. In second place, the next two are by the same author, and you will have guessed who they are. In second place, we have Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. This book is perfection. The next two books are just perfect books. I love that it was set before, during, and after a battle. I love battle scenes, but I don't like it when they're like the focal point. But the whole focal point of Heroes is a battle scene. And so the fact that that is like one of my top Abercrombie books is quite funny, because you wouldn't necessarily think that, given that my previous experience with battle scenes has been very hit and miss. But I really enjoyed it. I loved some of the perspectives that we got. I love that we got to spend more time with characters that I really enjoyed in the original trilogy. And that to me is just one of the best Abercrombie books that I have read. It's perfect. And there were certain things that he introduced in that novel that he then used in later novels, but I think he still did it the best in that novel. And I will talk about that in one of my future First Law videos, because I have a bunch of First Law video content coming up soon. But it was fantastic, and he blew my mind with that book. In last place, we have The Trouble with Peace, which is the second book in the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I say Heroes is a perfect book, and it is. But I think from a technical perspective, The Trouble with Peace is better. Not that Abercrombie needed to be better, because I think he's just phenomenal, but somehow he managed to improve his writing. And The Trouble with Peace, I genuinely do believe it is a perfect book. Technically, the way that I felt about it, there's nothing that I would change about it. I know some people have gripes with it. I will have a review of The Trouble with Peace coming out soon. My brother the next morning asked me, like, you finished it, what do you think? And I was like, I honestly don't have words to talk about it. I honestly don't have words that will do justice for how good this book is. Definitely number one book for me of last year. Abercrombie has shown to me, and I think he's shown to a lot of people, but has shown to me that he is just getting better and better with time. His character work is just getting richer and richer, and his plot work is developing more. And he is just becoming an absolutely outstanding author, an outstanding writer, and I cannot wait to read whatever he writes next. I really can't wait to come back to this world. I know he's mentioned before that he is planning to, but it won't be for a while, which I totally understand. But whatever he writes next, even if he wrote like a description of like someone building a road, I would read it. He's that good. The themes that are covered in that book and in that trilogy more widely are just fantastic. Just everything worked. Everything worked. Perfect book. Perfect story, perfect characters. That's all I'm going to say. Watch this space for the review. So there we have it. Those are my top 15 books for 2021. Let me know if any of those are surprising. I don't think the Parker and the Abercrombie picks will necessarily be a surprise, but let me know if any of these were on your list as well, because I'm always curious to see where there's like overlap and where, you know, we have commonalities. But I'm going to stop it there. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.